From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme Three podcast. Hello and welcome, cinephiles, cinema lovers, movie appreciators, friends, and family to the Gimme Three podcast, a series for cinephiles. We are your hosts. I'm Nicholas Ibarra, and I'm here with Bella of Stratus. Bella, how the hell are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. Hey, Nick. I'm doing really well today. I am so excited for this episode. Literally after watching like the last movie of one of the three that we're talking about today, I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to jump on the podcast right now.
That's exciting. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on this incredible filmmaker that we're going to be talking about today. This weekend also marks the weekend that we're recording, I should say.
Right.
Not the weekend this is getting released, but the weekend that we are recording tomorrow, in fact, is the Academy Awards. Bella, how excited are you for these Academy Awards?
Oh my God, you know I'm so excited. You know I eat this shit up. I have like some friends coming over. We're going to do the Oscar ballots. I'm so excited. I actually still have 2 Best Pictures to still watch. So hoping to get that done before Sunday night. So we'll see.
Which ones do you need to watch?
I still need to watch Maestro.
Okay.
Which I don't have many like expectations for. So I'm excited to go into that, not really knowing anything. And then American Fiction, which I'm really excited to watch.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. That was great. I have not seen Maestro either. That's the one that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I don't watch the Academy Awards. Generally speaking, I don't watch them just because they're so long, you know?
Yeah, they're so ridiculously long.
I used to watch them, when I was younger, because I'm certainly interested in who wins. But now with the internet, it's like I could just, you don't
actually have to watch the whole show. Yeah,
I'll just see who won, and then if somebody's like, "Oh, you should check out this speech," then I'll go check that out. I'll check.
Yeah, I love the speeches. Yeah. That part is always. It's either dramatic or cringy or really inspiring. And sometimes they make me cry even. So it's just fun to see people live their dreams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, on today's show, we continue our series for Women's History Month. We're highlighting different female filmmakers. We've released an episode spotlighting Kasi Lemmons and Agnes Varda the last couple of weeks. So check those out if you haven't already. And today we're talking about Academy Award winner in her own right, Chloé Zhao. She is a Best Director Academy Award winner. She was born in Beijing. She moved to the great city of Los Angeles in the year 2000. And in college, she actually majored in politics and minored in film.
Oh, wow.
Didn't take her long to realize that she was, in her words, more interested in people rather than policy. And in any case, she opted to pursue and succeed in a career in film. So today we're going to be doing deep dives on her first 3 films, which collectively have earned her several Independent Spirit Award nominations and wins. She won the Golden Lion Award at the Venice Film Festival. And in 2021, she became just the second woman ever to win Best Director at the Academy Awards. And I should also mention that before we get into the movies, I want to shout out that on Wednesday, we are going to be releasing a bonus episode. In 2021, right before the awards season, I had the pleasure of interviewing Molly Asher, who produced all 3 of the films that we're going to be talking about today. So if you want to hear more about her process of working with Chloé, and especially on Nomadland, because we go in deep on Nomadland in that interview, check out our bonus episode. You can listen to that by signing up for our Patreon. There's a link in the description. Or if you want the bonus episodes directly in your Apple or directly in your Spotify, go to the show notes and click the link that says support this show, and you'll be able to pay and get the bonus content just added straight into your platform. So, and it's just $5 a month, y'all. $5. With a price that low, you can't afford not to sign up for our bonus content. Bella, how excited are you for Zhao? You're going to start us off here with our first Zhao.
Excited. I just think her films are so inspiring, and I really can't stop thinking about all 3 of the films that we've watched for this episode. So they are pure movie magic, just like the magic of cinema and documentary. Really powerful stories of real people that highlights all the issues and hardships we face and the lessons we learn and grow from. All while paying an amazing tribute to just the beautiful world that we live in. So I'm very excited. Introducing the first film on our agenda for the day, nominated for Best Feature Film at Cannes, Best First Feature at the Indie Spirit Awards, and the Grand Jury Dramatic Prize at Sundance, Chloé Zhao's debut feature film, Songs My Brothers Taught Me. This movie was written, directed, and edited by Chloé Zhao, an indie coming-of-age drama that follows Johnny and his sister, Joshan, 2 kids living with their single mother on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. After the sudden death of their father, who, to be honest, wasn't really around anyways, Johnny seeks to leave the reservation with his college-bound girlfriend, but his sister remains the one thing he fears leaving behind. This is one of those movies that, in my opinion, just left me feeling completely changed. Like, it is such an emotionally gripping film. And I have fallen so deeply in love with Chloé Zhao and her work. I really, really admire her filmmaking approach, especially when creating films that are centered around these stories of real people and places. I think she has a really clear understanding of the respect and the sensitivity that comes with telling such authentic stories. And what I love most about her style is, though her presence is always there in her films through her cinematic touch or her trademarks, it doesn't feel like she's taking over the stories that are being told. Instead, it feels like she gives a lot of that power to her actors or non-actors. To like take the story into their own hands in order to really make it theirs, which, as we've seen in Songs My Brothers Taught Me and all her other films, it actually is the actor's own stories a lot of the time. And I think that's just what makes this film feel that much more powerful and authentic and important as well.
Yeah, it's a strong debut. It's definitely a strong debut.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think about, since we had just finished watching Agnes Varda's films, I saw a little bit of connectivity. I'm not sure if Agnes was an inspiration for Chloé Zhao's approach or style, but there's definitely a lot of similarities there in, using non-actors and adding sort of like documentary elements and even letting, sometimes supporting characters kind of like run with a scene and tell that story, which just kind of like enriches the overall narrative. A lot of, as you were talking about, a lot of little touches like that really make the movie feel not so much like a movie, but like you're just being brought into this like sliver of time and space and getting moments of real people's lives, which is, that's just the kind of filmmaking that I find really inspiring and
I totally agree, and
impressive. It's it's a strong piece. I mean, I love the score.
Yes.
There's not too much information about the making of this film available, and in hindsight, I wish I had asked Molly Asher about the making of this one a little bit more. But I know that they had been planning to make this movie for like years and years.
Yeah.
And I think Chloe had like a script, all greenlit, written out. And then from my understanding, a lot of their money got pulled. They lost a lot of the money.
They lost the whole budget, all of it, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, which that's a bummer. But I think at that moment, Chloe and the team kind of had like they were at a crossroads. It's like, do we wait another year or two, get the money again, and tackle this again, or do we kind of shift our approach, alter the script, strip it down, and shoot the film with the little money they had? And I think that's what they ended up doing. And with that approach, I think Zhao was became a little bit more of a Varda approach, where she was doing a lot of writing while they were making the film, and like letting real life situations kind of influence the story, letting the actual two characters, the two leads, elements of their lives actually influence the story. So I think it was a great choice, and it really paid off.
Like, it's just kind of amazing what they achieved with such a brutal road bump in the production of this film.
Yeah.
And yeah, we see that I think maybe we watched like the same interview, because there was I was like, I need to know everything there is to know about this movie. Like, how the hell was this made? It was so spectacular. And so yeah, I found this interview with Chloé Zhao and Jishan St. John, who plays the little girl, the younger sister in this film. And it had some really interesting stuff in it. Like, one point that I thought was so interesting that Chloé Zhao made is she was talking about how there were a lot of cameras on the reservation that they filmed on, like mostly for documentaries and just people wanting to know everyone's stories and like what their life is like. And she said she thinks having her film be fiction helped a lot for the like non-actors and like the local people on the reservation to just feel more relaxed. And she said this is because they were able to express themselves, but also protect themselves at the same time, which I think is really powerful. And yeah, she even mentions that, like, she's like, this is like a perfect example of the power of film. And I just couldn't agree more with that. And I think it was so brilliant for her to cast non-actors to like tell a truly authentic and like real depiction of life on the reservation. And then we see, like you said, with her kind of Varda approach, she had these amazing non-actors and kids imbue their own personal identity and life experiences into their performance. I saw that Jishan St. John, the little girl, said that apparently her real home actually did burn down around like the last couple weeks of shooting. And so Chloe was like, let's put it in the film, and wrote this like fictionalized story of her absentee father dying in the fire, which is insane to me because that's like where the movie starts.
It's kind of like
came at the end.
Yeah, it's kind of like the inciting incident of the film. But I wonder, I was thinking about that scene when she said that, and I was like, I wonder if they just like shifted the dialogue, you know, when that cop comes to visit the mom, and you know, he says like, oh, he mentions the fire, but you don't really like hear mention of it throughout the rest of the film. You just know the dad died. So I was wondering if that's what they did, and if they did, that's a really amazing way to sneak it in there.
Yeah, it was so clever.
Yeah, that scene where the Jishan's like walking to the house, and you see the rubble and the ashes. It's really
that moving. Was her. She said that was her real reaction. That was like the first time she had gone to see the house, which is just insane because that scene was already so gut-wrenching, and like learning that fact, I was just overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, because just the emotion and like pain and tears on her face in that scene, it just kills you, honestly. And I think John Reddy as Johnny Winters, who plays her older brother, he was incredible as well. I think he was an amazing lead and really powerfully carried this film.
Yeah, a lot of understated, you know, like the performances are not always there, but considering that almost the entire cast is non-actors, I think they did an outstanding job. And they kind of like, Zhao does a very good job of like almost using that to the film's advantage, because like a lot of the characters, especially Johnny, is like so reserved, like unwilling to open up and like let himself like wear his heart on his sleeve. Like he's always trying to like be a man and cover himself up. You even have the, you know, boxing analogy where he's like always trying to like protect himself.
Yeah.
So I thought it worked really, really well for him as a performer, because he's always just, you know, struggling to let himself put himself out there emotionally, at least.
I like how she seems to stick with her crew a little bit. I mean, obviously we have her producer who you interviewed, and then her cinematographer Joshua James Richards, who I think is also her boyfriend. I think his cinematography is incredible, and it works really, really well in her movies. I really liked it in this one, how it kind of, the camera seems to almost just like float on the wind in this film. Like it's so breezy, and it moves with the air and really just creates this calming, meditative atmosphere that I think is kind of like throughout all of Zhao's work. But I noticed it the most in this one. And I think it even kind of connects to the ending of this film where, and this isn't like totally a spoiler. This won't spoil anything that like really happens in the film for our listeners. But at the end, there's a line that Johnny says, and he says, "When the wind is too strong, we all know to lean into it so it doesn't blow us away." And then he like throws a handful of dirt into the air, and the camera just like tracks it. And then we just watch the wind like slowly carry it away. And it's such a simple shot, but I loved it so much because I felt like it almost came full circle here, where it's like the wind carries everything along it, like the camera, the action. And as we see in this final shot, like even the land itself. And I just thought that was such a like beautiful moment in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. Great final shot of the film too.
But yeah, this really is sort of a double coming of age story, which I think is what makes it so unique as well. Like it's Johnny's own coming of age story and Jashawn's own coming of age story, as they're both struggling to find their place in the world, struggling to figure out like their next moves and what their future looks like. For Johnny, it seems like people make him feel like nothing, and he feels abandoned in a lot of ways, like which makes him want to escape, but he's not exactly sure how. Whereas for Jashawn, she's much more connected to like the community and the culture. And I think that has to do with her age, but I think it also has to do with her personality. Like it's just who she is. Like with the realization that her brother may be leaving, she decides to go out and kind of meet people and find purpose and meaning in her life. And we really see these kids in kind of an adult world where they're forced to grow up pretty fast. And while it's sometimes painful to watch, it's also really beautiful to see these kids really grow into themselves.
Yeah, you have kind of this juxtaposition of like Jashawn is trying to connect with her community and her, you know, her native roots.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's like working with this artist who makes all these like original, you know, res like life, clothes, native, you know, native life clothes and posters and stuff. And she's trying to connect with that. And then you have Johnny, who is dealing booze illegally. He's like a bootlegger, which there's obviously a huge alcoholic epidemic that's going on his reservation. So he's kind of like contributing to the downfall of his people, and he sees it and he recognizes it, and he's just like, it hurts him, but he's like still doing it just to like get by. And then you have his sister who's trying to like do the opposite of that. But they're, you know, but they're very close. Like they never confront each other about it, but it's just like, it's a interesting kind of like yin and yang of their two individual coming of age stories.
Totally. Yeah. Which just makes for such a special viewing experience to kind of live through both of these kids' own experiences that are, like you said, they're so connected, but they're so distinct at the same time. Mm-hmm. Definitely check out Songs My Brothers Taught Me. Right now, you can watch it on Canopy for free with a public library card or account, or you can just rent it on Amazon, On Demand, YouTube. Yeah, wherever you rent your movies, basically.
Awesome. Check it out. And that brings us to our second film and Chloe's second film, The Rider, which was released in 2017 and follows Brady Blackburn. Also takes place in South Dakota, also takes place in the Badlands. Mm-hmm. She loves the American West, which we talk about with Molly in our bonus episode. So check out our discussion of the American West and how it acts as kind of a muse for Zhao's work. But as I said, The Rider follows Brady Blackburn. He's a cowboy. He's a rodeo man. And despite his young age, he's a pretty popular, accomplished rodeo man. He's got a few buckles to his name, and he's got this potential, or had this potential, to be a real star. And had is the key and unfortunate word here, because when we come into the film, he has already suffered a near deadly head injury. Real gnarly. We see this insane scar on the side of his head, and it's closed with all these staples. And whenever you see staples on an injury instead of stitches, you know that shit is real. So
brutal.
Yeah. So Brady's living with his pop, who is an alcoholic, and he's living with his autistic sister, who he has a very close relationship with. And throughout the film, he's just trying to heal up. And on this road to recovery, he has to silently ask himself, what the hell am I going to do if I cannot rodeo anymore? Because that is really the only thing that he loves to do. It's not the only thing he's good at. He's a really good horse trainer also, but even doing that puts a lot of wear and stress on his head. So the doctor says, shouldn't do that either. So anyways, he's trying to push himself. He's trying to cowboy up, as they say in the film. He's like, man up. And he's not resting, and he's getting worse, and he's puking, and what's even more scary is his hands keep locking up. His hands like make a fist, and he cannot unclench his fist, which, if you're a rodeo person, if you can't unclench your fist, it's a nightmare situation. So it follows him as he's trying to figure out what is going to be his next move in life. And he is still pushing for himself, and other people are pushing. His fans, his friends are saying, hey man, we can't wait to see you get back out there. So it's just adding all this pressure onto him. So it becomes like a very gripping, personal tale about this young rodeo man. What were your thoughts on The Rider, Bella?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to point out that this movie had an $80,000 budget that apparently Zhao and her cinematographer covered themselves.
Wow.
And they made this movie with 6 crew members, all natural lighting, minus some Walmart LED strips for like the extra intense stuff.
Yeah. And
then it went on to make $4.2 million at box office. And I'm just like, come on. If that's not movie magic, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, like, that's incredible.
Incredible. I think The Rider might be, I don't know, I think it might be the most visually stunning out of all her work, in my opinion.
I think so. Rewatching it the other day, I was like, man, there's just some really gorgeous frames in this thing.
Yeah,
and Brady's face is like magnetic also. Just the close-ups on him are just like, man.
Yeah, I think she even I was reading something where she likened him to Heath Ledger. Like she just saw him and she was like, this is a star. Like he's got something about him, which I totally saw in this. Magnetic is exactly the right word. But yeah, just I couldn't even comprehend how she was able to capture the lighting and colors in this film. I love her trademark shades of like deep blue at dusk or magic hour. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen on the screen. Just absolutely gorgeous. Zhao's actually said, she was like, I'm going to shoot every magic hour that I'm alive. And I was like, I will watch all of those.
Right.
Because she's so damn good at it. But yeah, I absolutely loved this film. There is a horse whisperer scene in this movie that is like perfection. It's that scene where Brady's training the horse in real time, which is already like incredible in itself. And my favorite part about this scene is how the camera never leaves Brady and the horse, but we hear the horse owner's voice off screen, and he's just like marveling at Brady's magic touch with horses. And I love this aspect so much because I don't know shit about horses. Like, I don't know anything about training or like that lifestyle or that work. And I really like the narration we get from this guy because I feel like it helped me to be like, understand what is happening, why he's doing like this thing with the horse, and just how impressive it is. And you really get to experience just how special and talented Brady is in this moment. And I just thought it was such a powerful scene.
Yeah. And like kind of, I'm interested to hear how they did that and some of the other, like the one critique I have of this film, and it's a pretty big one, is just like the animals. Like there are some scenes where like you're like, oh shit, is that horse all right?
I know. Yeah. I mean, because it is, I feel like it definitely is like a rough business for animal. Like buck riding is probably not the nicest sport for animals. So
it's certainly it's not great, but it is. But it is a world. You know, it is like I'm not passing judgment on on people who you know who rodeo or are rodeo fans. I understand. But it is a thought that passes through your head, and I think the film kind of acknowledges it also because as he's had this major injury, he's kind of looking at these animals in a different way of like he's connecting to them more as like quote unquote damaged goods.
It's not fair to the horse. He can't run and play and do what he wants to do.
She doesn't go on.
You know, I got hurt like Apollo did. But I'm a person, so I got to live. If any animal around here got hurt like I did, they'd have to be put down. You know, Lily, I believe God gives each of us a purpose.
Very true.
To the horse that's run across the prairie. For a cowboy, it's to ride.
You know, they're going to put the horse down. Well, why shouldn't they put me down? Because like I can't do what I was put on this earth to do anymore.
Yeah, he feels broken, which is so awful. Apparently, I'm so glad you pointed out that line because I was reading that apparently Brady Jandreau, like the real life guy, said this to her. He was like, if any animals around here got hurt like I did, they would get put down. And that's like the line that made her decide to make this movie. Because I couldn't believe that she had met him before his accident and she was going to just make a movie about his life because she was like, what you do is so incredible. And then right before shooting, he had his accident. And so they were kind of on pause for a while, but she still was like talking with him about his experience. And when he said this to her, she was just like, you know what, like, we're going to do this. We're going to make a film about hope and acceptance and disability. And damn, she fucking killed it. And I just think it's so crazy that could have been such a different movie before.
You know what this rewatching this reminded me of, and I think this movie would make a great double bill with this film, which is The Wrestler. Have you seen The Wrestler, Darren Aronofsky?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. They
you
totally have similar energy too.
Similar energy. You have like this niche sport or entertainment. Full disclosure, I'm a big wrestling fan. Check out my work on thesportster.com if you're interested in my thoughts on, you know, wrestling. Yes. I write a blog. You got a niche sport, niche entertainment with a devout fan base, and it's incredibly dangerous. And then you have these two men, albeit one young, one old, who kind of like, unfortunately, past their prime and have these health issues, but their friends and their family and their fans keep pushing them to say like, oh, we want more of you. We want more of you. Come on back. It's like these men should stop doing this. But they feel as if like this is their identity. And without being able to do this, like they feel like they have no identity. So I think this would make a great pairing with the wrestler. Aronofsky's the wrestler. And
I love the wrestler. Definitely.
Aronofsky's best, if you ask me. In my humble opinion, Aronofsky. The Rider, available to stream on Cinemax. If you have that, it is the most popular streaming app out there. Cinemax. You can, if you don't have Cinemax, then you can order it on demand wherever you rent your films, or you could check it out at your local video store. We're going to take a quick break, everybody. During that break, you're going to hear from PGA producer, Gimme Three producer, and my wife, Sonja Mereu, in a segment that we call Sonja's Movie Minute. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Chloé Zhao's third film, the Academy Award-winning Nomadland. Stick around. More to come on the Gimme Three podcast.
Hello, I'm Sonja, and this is my Movie Minute. Today I want to talk about Queen and Slim, directed by Lena Waithe and directed by Melina Matsoukas. When it was released back in 2019, I had the privilege of attending a screening of the film and a Q&A with Lena, Melina, and co-star Daniel Kaluuya. The energy was electric. The entire audience was on the run with Queen and Slim, rooting for them, holding their breath, and praying that it didn't end in tragedy. Queen and Slim tells the story of, you guessed it, Queen and Slim, played by Jodie Turner-Smith and Daniel Kaluuya. Those aren't the characters' real names, but it makes sense to call them by those monikers because they become symbolic folk heroes. The movie starts with the two on a really awkward Tinder date that's clearly not going to lead to a hookup or even a second date. But then on their drive home, a traffic stop goes completely awry, causing Queen and Slim to become outlaws on the run. These strangers, who don't even really like each other, become partners, then friends, and lovers. Queen and Slim is a gorgeous, stylized outlaw tale, following in the footsteps of Thelma and Louise, or the lesser-known gem, The Legend of Billie Jean. But it also hits painfully close to home. The story of Queen and Slim felt tragically real in 2019 and somehow feels even more true today. Ever since Daniel Kaluuya grew worldwide fame for his performance in Get Out, he's been someone people look to for honesty in his characterizations and insight into the experience of Black men. I imagine that might be a big burden for him, but nonetheless, he's taken on roles that speak to history and the present in powerful ways. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch Queen and Slim.
All right, welcome back to the Gimme Three podcast, a series for cinephiles, everybody. And we are discussing the films of Chloé Zhao, her first three films, in fact. So to start us off, we talked about Songs My Brothers Taught Me, and then we talked about The Rider, and now we're going to talk about her third film, the Academy Award-winning Nomadland. Bella, take it away.
Yeah, introducing our final film for the day. Nomadland stars Frances McDormand as Fern, a woman in her 60s who lost everything after the Great Recession. She lived in Empire, Nevada for most of her adult life with her husband, Beau, and they worked for U.S. Gypsum for many happy years together. But on January 31st, 2012, U.S. Gypsum shut down its plant in Empire after 88 long years. And by July of that year, the Empire zip code was completely discontinued, and the town eventually abandoned. Unfortunately, Fern's husband, Beau, passes away shortly after, and after a few years in Empire, with nothing really left for her, Fern decides to buy a van, fix it up real nice for living on the road, and she embarks on her nomadic journey across the American West. In search of temporary work and the key to nomadic living or van living, she discovers a nomadic community called RTR, stands for Rubber Tramp Rendezvous. And within this community gathering, Fern meets a variety of incredible real-life people who are happy to share their nomadic and personal life stories, including the founder of RTR, Bob Wells, a kind-hearted woman living on the road in her 70s named Linda May, and another nomadic older woman named Swanky. Fern takes these connections and experiences with her all over the West as she explores her own identity and discovers what it is that she seeks or needs out of life. So now that you have the background of the film, let me just say this is such an exceptional film. Definitely worthy of an Oscar. I watched this movie like the moment it was nominated for Best Picture that year in 2021, I believe. And I think at the time I just didn't really understand it. Like it didn't affect me the way it did now. But rewatching this film in the last few days, I think after watching a lot of cinema verite films, like what you were talking about, Nick, with like the Agnes Varda films we've been watching, and I recently watched Marissa Malt's The Unknown Country, which is really similar to Chloé Zhao's work. And yeah, my opinion on this film completely shifted. I can easily say that I think this is one of the greatest movies ever made. It's just so emotional. Like I was bawling my eyes out watching this. It really took me by surprise just how much this film affected me. And I think I'll be thinking about it forever, honestly.
That was a bold statement of the day.
That's my bold statement. Yeah, that's my bold statement of the day. I've been thinking a lot about it. I even thought about like switching out one of my 4 favorites on Letterboxd, which is pretty crazy.
It hit you.
But I couldn't do it. But yeah, this movie really, really moved me. I think it beautifully captures just like the beauty of being alive, like in every sense of the word. Just being grateful for everything we have, but most of all, every day we have on Earth that we can like spend being surrounded by or like connecting to nature. The founder of RTR, Bob Wells, I think he said it best himself. He said like connecting to nature and a real community or like tribe will make a huge difference in people's lives. And I think especially for anyone who's ever experienced loneliness or hopelessness. And yeah, I just love the theme of nature and like capturing the beauty of it that Zhao has in all her work. And I think this might be the movie that does it the best just because it is about like nomadic living. Like we're going through so many different spaces. And I love how it focuses on like the kind of the awes of the world around. Like there's that scene where a man with a telescope is showing a group of people like stars and Jupiter and just explaining like the natural phenomenon that occurs around us every single day. And I think it just shows the power in learning about the world and the universe and how this can also help people connect to nature and themselves and other people as well. But yeah, anyways, just all I'm saying is like the way Zhao and Richards, her cinematographer, capture the natural world in this movie just makes me want to run to it. Like there are scenes in this film that are just so exquisitely shot that you can literally feel what Fern is feeling. The one that comes to mind for me is there's a scene where she's standing on the edge of these like giant, beautiful, lush green cliffs that drop off into like a roaring sea with powerful waves smashing into the rocks below. And the wind's like carrying the sea spray all around her. And she's just smiling. She's got like her arms extended to just like feel everything. And oh, it's one of my favorite scenes in the film because of this. Like I felt this scene and oh man, it's just magical stuff, honestly.
You know, it's interesting listening to you talk about it because I think there are so many people take different things away from this film.
Yes,
I watched,
I can totally see that.
I watched some fucking jagoff on the YouTube talking about how this film is poverty porn.
What? Interesting.
And, you know, I listened to his analysis and his critique, and which he is, of course, entitled to. But, he was talking about how this film kind of like romanticizes the state or the idea of being poor. That's what like a poverty porn film is. But I did not take that away from this film at all. And even your analysis seems a little more hopeful than my analysis of the film, which is what I gathered from this film the first time I saw it, and even more so this time that I saw it, is that this movie is about people in a country who are broken. Francis or Ferns in particular is, really broken character at the top of this film. Like, she has lost her husband, who was kind of like her main partner in life. Yeah, her rock. And
they seemed like very in love. Yeah.
Very in love. And just like from her interactions with like other people in her life, like her sister who lives, in the burbs, she's got like a nice house. Her husband does, real estate. And when you see her interactions with her, you understand a little bit more her relationship with her husband, because they kind of went into this place called Empire, which was kind of like, even her sister was like, why did you move to that fucking podunk town? Like, why did you do that? And she's like, because I love my man, and then she's like, why did you stay there? Why did you stay there after he left? You could have like come over here. And that's where I like have this critique of like the idea that this film is poverty porn, because Fern is constantly working. It's not like this is a choice that she's making to live this van life, because she's always getting jobs.
Right.
She has opportunities in the film to like go live with her sister, or, probably live with her sister, get a job and get her own place. Like if she wanted to, because her sister and her don't really like get along too well, but they do love each other.
Yeah. So anyways, there's deep love there.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, you're seeing this character who has not only lost her husband, but has lost her entire town. Like,
her whole community and
her whole
world.
Like, imagine living in a place for 20 years and then that place is just not there anymore.
Yeah, simply doesn't exist.
Like, how would you start over? Why would you start over? And I think that's like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's the question that this film is asking is like, why would you start over? And that's, I think, what these people are kind of like up against. And even Bob Wells' real kind of like very real monologue that he's giving about like what happened in his life. And he says flat out, he's like, these people are just like hurt. Most of these people that are here you see today are just going through grief. And they can't go through this grief in the quote unquote real world because it's just too fucking painful. That's what I took from it. I was like,
I really disagree with that idea of poverty porn, because I think there's so many points made in this film where people are like, oh, if you ever need help, or like, let me help you get back on your feet. And Fern's like, what are you talking about? Like, just because I'm maybe taking a more like unconventional route of like life experience doesn't mean that it's wrong or that I'm like struggling financially.
Right.
Like she even has that quote where she runs into the people at the store and the girl's like, my mom says you're homeless. And she was like, I'm not homeless, just houseless. Like not the same thing. Right. And she's like, right. And so I feel like it's kind of repeated over and over.
Yeah.
That this is her choice. And so, I think that's really interesting. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think this is almost like a controversial movie in the way that so many people can take so many different things from it and perceive it very differently as well. But I think that's what makes it so fucking awesome too.
Yeah, totally. That's what makes it. I think people take from it what they are feeling. If somebody's going through grief, you may relate to that element of Fern's story. If you're looking for freedom or you're looking to, reject societal norms, you may relate to that element of Fern's journey. And if you're a fucking jagoff, you might call it poverty. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, bro. I'm kidding. At me.
I think maybe like the central theme of this movie, though, that most people can agree on, dare I say, is just this concept of home.
Yeah.
Like there's that one quote in the movie that I think really defines it, and it's said by a coworker at Amazon, which is where Fern is working at some points in the film, and the coworker has like a bunch of Morrissey lyrics tattooed on her body, and one of them is, "Home, is it just a word, or is it something you carry within you?" And I really like this scene too, because you can see everyone agrees. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great line. Like that's a great line." But you can really see how much it resonates with Fern, because she's going through her own loss of her husband and her home and her community, basically like lost her whole foundation. And she's entering this new exploration of like, what is home to her now that she's left Empire for good. And I really love seeing that, like her explore that in this movie. It's just, God, it's one of the most emotionally realistic films I've ever seen. And I think self-exploration and healing and home are like the three themes that are at the forefront of this. And I really have to commend Zhao's filmmaking and editing skills in finding all these different people and stories and themes and putting them together to create this insanely powerful narrative and just overall work of art.
And you mentioned that woman talking about her tattoos. The tattoos kind of come up a bit in this film, and they often are in relation to like a sense of place or a sense of home, because there's like that other dude who's like talking about like Georgia. He's got a Confederate flag tattoo on his arm for one thing, but then he's talking about like how he's going to get like Georgia and Georgia Bulldogs tattooed on his arm. So it's like sometimes the ideas of home or the ideas of like finding a place are like intriguing to Fern, and then sometimes they kind of like make her uncomfortable, because depending on where she is in her life. I think that happens right around after she goes to visit her friend and he wants her to stay. It's either before that or after that, and she's kind of like still unsure of like what's going to happen. But anyways, I thought that was like an interesting through line of like having people like literally, they identify with home and the concept of it, that they put it on their bodies, and seeing Fern's like different reactions to that throughout the film, depending on where she's at, was an interesting touch.
And damn, Frances McDormand was spectacular in this film.
Man, yeah, it's like, I mean, you could see her thoughts in this film. It seems like,
no, I totally agree. Like read right across her face without words.
Because she doesn't do a lot of talking in this movie. Like she does a lot of listening, and I know she's
an incredible listener. Yeah,
they always say like acting is listening, so that's not like supposed to be a revelation or whatever. But Frances,
but
really,
in this one, it is.
It is, yeah, and it does. She talks very little in this film, and a lot of times when she does talk, she's kind of like snappy. She's a little firm, especially with like people she's close with. She could be a little curt.
She's an interesting character. Yeah. Very and like her sister even points it out. She's like, people think you're kind of weird.
Yeah.
But she's like, I think you're just honest, and that makes you special. And I love characters like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how another critique, I guess, from this film was that I read that they were like, oh, the Fern character is she's like too perfect. She has no flaws. And I'm like, what movie are these people watching? I was like, she called her sister, like, asked her for $5,000, and then called her a bitch when she wouldn't give it to her. I was like, I wouldn't call that like, like she's got some flaws. Let's just call a spade here.
And she's very snappy. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, my point was the performance is incredible. And a lot of the performance takes place of her just listening to people, and you kind of see her wheels turning and digesting it, and you can see her listening to not only other people, you could see her like listening to herself a lot in this film. So really, really incredible performance from Frances. Did Frances win an Academy Award for this movie? Let me look
You
this
know what?
up.
That's a great question. Oh yeah,
She did?
I think she won Best Actress that year, next to Anthony Hopkins
For the
Best
father.
Actor
Holy
for The
jeez.
Father. Yeah.
Talk about it. Talk about a heavy film, The Father. Have you seen that one?
Yeah. No, it's on my list. It might be my boyfriend's favorite film. Like every time I bring it up, he's like, "Oh my god,
Oof,
like
man.
you have to watch it."
It's
so,
heavy. It is heavy stuff.
Yeah, definitely need to check that one out. But yeah, it looks like she did. So very well deserved.
Yeah, well deserved.
Nomadland swept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Any final thoughts on Nomadland before we send us away?
I just want to shout out Swanky because she was my favorite character.
Oh yeah. She's great.
Like just absolutely incredible the way they like wove her story into the narrative of this film.
Her character and Linda May and Bob Wells, who are all real people, real van people, if you will.
Right.
They add so much life to this movie, and I don't think the movie would be what it is without them and their stories. And they tell their stories, and it really just adds, like that scene with Bob where he's telling the story. I mean, that's just like an incredible, incredible piece.
It's so powerful.
Really, it might be my favorite scene of the film.
And like all of their stories made me cry, but I realized like, and of course I feel so much for like what they've been through and their pain and their trauma. But I realized that I wasn't really crying out of pity. I was crying because I just admire the hell out of them. Like I admire their strength and just like their solidarity in their own communities together. And I felt so inspired by like their outlooks on life, just the way they choose to live and experience everything because, you know, you only get one opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, you could check out Nomadland on Hulu. It is streaming on Hulu. And again, as I mentioned, my friends, at the beginning of the episode, on Wednesday, we are releasing a bonus episode where you can listen to my 2021 interview with Molly Asher, who produced all three of the films that we discussed today. And we go into depth about Nomadland, the making of Nomadland. Yeah, we talk about the cinematography. We talk about shooting buffalo. We talk about shooting on the road. We talk about all kinds of fun stuff. And she also does a little Gimme Three of her own. She talks about 3 films that inspired her and inspired her work. So definitely check that out. And I will say, Bella, that one of the 3 films that she talks about is in your top 4. So that's a little teaser. So be sure to check out that bonus episode. You could check it out by signing up for our Patreon. The link is in our episode description. Or if you want the bonus episodes directly in your Apple or your Spotify, you just go to the show notes. You click the link that says support this show, and you'll be able to pay the measly $5, and you get all of our bonus content added to your platform. It's $5 a month, cheaper than a Starbucks coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Bella, it was a hell of a time talking about Chloé Zhao's work, and I'm excited to see what she's got coming up next. We should mention also after this, she came out with Eternals. She did a Marvel film.
Yes. Well, you know what's so funny that I noticed and I just remembered in Nomadland is there's a shot of Fern walking past like the Midwest Theater and they're playing the Avengers.
Oh, is that right?
And I was like, oh my God, like that's just so ironic that she went on to do Marvel.
That's funny. Yeah. So check out the Eternals if you haven't seen that. I think 2 people like that movie, and Bella and I were the 2. So check it out.
I just love anything Zhao does.
Yeah,
She's the best.
We're Zhao heads.
Mm-hmm. She can do no wrong.
Bella, tell the fine folk where they can find you on the socials.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Portrait of a Cinephile or on Letterboxd at BF Stratus. That's just B and then my last name, F Stratus.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Gimme Three Podcast. That's GIMME, spell out 3 podcast. Let us know what you think of these films, and let us know what you think of Chloé Zhao's work. What's your favorite Chloé Zhao film? Let us know in the comments. We want to thank you all for listening to Film Forward, and we're going to catch you next week when we wrap up our month-long celebration of female filmmakers. And then after that, we are not going to talk about any more female filmmakers for 11 months. That was a joke. Dorothy Arzner next week, one of my all-time favorites. So stick around for that. We'll be back next week. More the Gimme Three podcast. Thank you all for listening.